News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukatali.
Well, very good evening to you. This is Newsline Prime. Slight problem there at the beginning. Still, here we are. This evening we've got two very special guests. They're here because they're going to help with trauma and how to cope with it and so on and so forth. They're here especially after the events of the 21st of April. Apparently, this is about a month later now. This is when the trauma really sets in. Let's see who they are and let's hear from them. They're right here with me. It's a great pleasure to welcome them to the Capital Maharaja News Asset News First. And the first of them is Sister Janet Nethisinghe. Very good evening to you, Sister, and welcome to Newsline.
Good evening.
And the other one here is Dr.Parul. He's from Mumbai and is a psychiatrist and also part and parcel of what they're going to be doing. Very good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening.
Welcome to Sri Lanka, and I hope
thank you for having us on the show.
And thank you. When we all hear what you're doing here, I'm sure all of us will want to thank you and Sister for everything that you're doing for us. And let's see what EMDR is all about. Let's see.
EMDR therapy was originally developed in the United States of America. Its purpose is to treat post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. It's been used in a variety of settings and countries over the past 25 years to not only successfully treat PTSD, but to also address a range of other mental health issues including depression, anxiety, panic attacks, grief, performance anxiety, nightmares, phobias, and addictions. EMDR therapy first began in 1987 when psychologist Dr. Francine Shapiro made the observation that eye movements can reduce the intensity of disturbing thoughts under certain conditions. Dr. Shapiro studied this effect scientifically and in 1999 reported success using EMDR to treat PTSD. Since this initial discovery, over 30 scientifically rigorous studies have proven that EMDR therapy is one of the most effective treatments for trauma. EMDR therapy is now endorsed by many reputable bodies including the World Health Organization. A typical EMDR therapy session lasts between 60 to 90 minutes. The type of problem, life circumstances, and the amount of previous trauma will determine how many treatment sessions you might need. During EMDR therapy, your therapist will work with you to identify a specific problem or memory as a focus for the treatment session. As you recall this disturbing issue or event, and what you think and feel as you remember it, your therapist will invite you to follow a side-to-side movement with your eyes. These eye movements are used until the memory you have becomes distant and less distressing, so new positive thoughts about yourself can emerge and be matched to the original issue or memory. EMDR therapy does not involve homework, is often quicker than other trauma treatments, and its benefits continue to be experienced and grow long after treatment is finished.
And that is what EMDR is about. Tell us, Doctor, what is EMDR? What does it stand for?
So EMDR stands for eye movements, desensitization and reprocessing.
Right.
A difficult word, but not a very difficult therapy.
Right, very a simple sort of therapy. Effective?
Extremely effective.
Right.
So I'm not just saying this because I practice it, but the studies have shown, so it's very scientific, it's very research oriented, and it's one of the few therapies that are coming up very, very well in recent times.
Indeed. And Sister Janet, you've been involved with this since when? Since the tsunami, was it?
Yes, after the tsunami. Because it was after the tsunami that was introduced EMDR to Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. A team of therapists came from the United States and Israel, and they trained our counselors in EMDR therapy. So that was our beginning.
Thank you very much for that. What would you say has been your level of success with the tsunami victims?
Yeah, we used to go to the camps
Right.
of the tsunami, the affected people, and we used to do that. So it was, I would say it was very helpful for the people. Yes, like to Hambantota, so mostly for the coastal areas in the western, western coast. Yes.
Sinigama, where they had
Yes.
to train.
Yes.
So where they had lots of
Yes.
concentration of victims there.
Yes, yes. And there were a lot of other therapists also who came to Sri Lanka at that time. So there were so many therapies.
Right.
Yes, but fortunately for us, we encountered this therapy.
Right.
And so from there only we took off with the EMDR.
And tell us a bit about yourself, Sister Janice. You are a trained psychologist, is it?
Yes.
Right. And doctor is a psychiatrist.
Yes.
What's the difference?
Maybe you can say.
So a psychiatrist is a doctor with
Right.
a medical degree, and then we specialize in mental health called psychiatry.
Right.
Whereas psychologists do like a graduation in humanities,
Right.
and then they become psychologists.
Right.
But they both work in mental health, and we both work in amalgamation with each other. So one cannot do without the other. So psychiatrists give medications as well to people who are maybe having a little more illness, say in anxiety, phobias, depression. Whereas psychologists do a lot of counseling and therapies which are very structured.
Now, I'm sure our listeners are waiting to hear about what exactly EMDR, what entails in the therapy part of it. But before I pose that question to our guest today, I'd just like to remind you that on Newsline Prime, as we do on Newsline, we encourage you to send us your questions by SMS, please, on 0772 300 305. SMS only, please, 0772 300 305. Card coming up to you shortly, hopefully. Now then, actually, so the time has arrived now, maybe, for you to tell us what is the therapy all about? What happens? Tell us the phases.
Okay. So let me start a little in the beginning in terms of the history. So
Yeah.
it was a therapy which was first discovered in America by a lady called Francine Shapiro. It was discovered by like serendipity, as they would say. She was walking and she suddenly realized that her mind became a little more clear. So as we say, we walk to clear our head, and that's what actually happened. And she said there must be some scientific basis behind this. And so she started discovering something called bilateral movements.
Right.
So walking is a bilateral movement. We don't jump as humans.
Yeah.
So she's realized that when you do bilateral movements, the mind starts getting processed, the memories get processed, and that's the basis of this therapy. So the therapy works with memories. So it works with memories which are stored badly because you've had an emotional trauma. It could be a small trauma, which we call a small t, or it could be a big trauma, like the bomb blasts, a big T. These memories get stored in a very maladaptive fashion, so that when people move on in their lives, they get triggered. So say if you've had a car accident a few years ago, but you still feel a little frightened to enter the car because every time you hear, say, a car horn or brakes, your heart leaps. And why does that happen? Because the past, you have not processed that memory. So the basis of this therapy is it helps us to process maladaptive or bad memories to little more positive resolved memories. So that's the basis of this. It has at least 8 phases. So it's not like you just go on doing it. It has proper 8 structured phases.
I think we have a clip of the start of the therapy, I believe, and let's see if John Fernando will play that for us, please. So this is the movement of the eyes from side to side.
Yes. So this is an eye movements which is taking place
Right.
when the person is imagining the trauma. I'm simplifying this, of course, there's more detail that goes into this. And what generally happens is that the person starts resolving that memory. Of course, there's a lot more that goes into it, but what really happens is the maladaptive memories start resolving into an adaptive form.
Right.
This looks a bit hocus pocus, to be very honest.
Yeah.
It also looks a bit weird. But it's not.
It's not.
It's not. It looks like hypnosis. It's not.
Oh, it's absolutely not hypnosis.
Absolutely not hypnosis. Hypnosis was something which was done 150 years ago.
Right.
So I think we have to move on with times and be
Okay.
more biological.
So what is the significance of moving your eye like this, you know?
It's bilateral stimulation. So when you move your eyes, you're actually stimulating both parts of the brain.
I see.
We can't make you walk inside the therapy room. So this
Right.
is one method.
Okay.
But of course, there are other methods of bilateral stimulation.
Right.
So see something like this,
Right.
where you bilaterally stimulate,
Right.
as well as think about the trauma.
Right.
And
So
there were-
something like this
yes,
would be...
it's- yes, like a butterfly hug. That's
Right.
one of them.
Okay.
And it could, so it will be for us like this. It would be
Okay.
alternating because it's
Right.
bilateral.
Okay, good. And so that's the start.
That's the
So the
start.
whole idea is what? That you process your memory?
You process
the bad memories?
the bad memories, and you
Okay.
go on and resolve to more adaptive memories.
Right.
So you connect in the memory network to something which is more adaptive.
And Sister Janet, how do you, I know it's a grand job that you are doing. It's a super initiative by the EMDR Sri Lanka Association,
Yes.
the Sri Lanka arm of it, because it's free and it helps the needy. And you are focusing on the victims of the 21st of April
Right.
incidents. I don't want to give traction to the terrorists by mentioning all these things, because they use these things, history has shown, as some sort of trophy. So that's why we have different ways of referring to it. And so we refer to it as the events of 21 April. Now, 21 April, why, is there any significance why you've suddenly arrived here now at this time? It's about just over a month.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
significant?
That is also, but we have planned this training program. Right now there is a training program for counselors and psychologists going on.
Where? In Colombo?
Colombo.
Right.
Yes. And our two trainers are here. So it's a very good opportunity for us to speak about this. In fact, we wanted to do this earlier, but we
Right.
didn't get an opportunity.
Yeah.
So these two things came together right now. So it is the suitable time.
I see.
Yeah.
Can I just add that we are doing it after a month because science has shown that trauma, emotional trauma, generally sets in after a month of a tragedy
I see.
or after a month of any event. It's known as an acute stress reaction, because obviously in the first few days and weeks one is so numb and one is looking at the other things around them. There are other needs, like it could be medical needs, it could be need for food, but it's later when one kind of settles that the emotional trauma completely hits them. So that generally happens after a month, and it can become like a full-blown PTSD, as you showed, after 3 months. So that's why EMDR is one of the therapies, or the prime therapies, even now approved by WHO for acute stress disorder and PTSD.
Right, so as
After
we
a
saw in
trauma.
that first clip,
Yes.
WHO have endorsed this.
Yes,
this
and so
treatment.
have a lot of other professional organizations all over the world.
And that's the key, isn't it, Sister Janet, that this therapy is done by professional people,
Yes,
duly qualified.
yes.
Right.
We can't just read the book and do it.
Right.
Because it's you may get the knowledge, but then how to do it, you have to go through the training.
Right.
And it's a proper training. We do the training in 2 levels, level 1, level 2, and about 4 days of training each one. So it's a thorough training. You need to learn it properly, otherwise you can do more harm than good to the
And
people.
who's supervising this?
Our trainers.
Which is through filters down from the American body?
Yes, the
Yes.
Trauma Recovery
Yes.
Network, which is a professional but humanitarian voluntary organization. And so it's extremely organized. The trainers from there and now Asian trainers supervise at every level all the therapists who are undergoing the training.
And ladies, how does, Sister, I better ask this from you actually. Sister Jenna, how acceptable were you all, how well were you received by people who needed this sort of counseling when, drawing from your experience back in 2005 after the tsunami?
See, our people do not know about counseling very much.
Yeah.
Most of the people, they have no idea. It is very recently, relatively recent times that people are coming to know this. So they don't feel the need to go for help.
Is that it, or is there some sort of stigma because people think if you need counseling, it's like going for mental treatment?
Yes, very much.
Is there a stigma?
Yes, very much. People don't want to even think of going to a counselor. They think that people will think I am mad. So they, even if they come like hiding. They don't want to be seen by, but now it is breaking down.
It's a bit like obtaining tuition, isn't it? It's
Yes.
extra tuition. Because there's not this, nowadays, I remember my little boy was distressed when we asked him to do some tuition, because he felt that he was the odd one out and he needed help. And so it was done under various sort of strange circumstances, but he quickly got over it. So it is like having tuition, isn't it? There's no stigma in it, or there shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be.
Yes.
Because it's just like when I am physically sick, I go to a doctor.
Correct.
So our mind is also part of our
Body,
self. Yeah,
isn't
body.
it?
Right.
So it's very natural, when we are stressed out, especially today. There's a lot of stress that people are going through with all the,
Yes.
I know you're dying to say it because of the economy. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It is very stressful.
Yes.
4,500 million rupees, that's 4.5 billion with a B, is missing from the economy in the month, the end of May, with the
Right.
salary checks at the end of May. Simply from the 180,000 people who work in the hotel industry directly.
Yeah.
And more than 50% of those 180,000 people work in the rural, they come to work in hotels, but they come from the rural areas. So when their money is missing, the 25,000 average service charge that's missing, they just simply didn't find it in their paychecks this month, in May. So clearly that is traumatic enough
Yes.
on its own.
Yes.
Many people have called us and said, what do we do? How do we handle the debt that we've got ourselves into? There are loans, leases, children's education, tuition classes. So the list is endless.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stress right now after the bomb blast. But even otherwise, there's a lot of stress.
But how do you...
Families, even in the educational system, the way that our education system is, children have a lot of stress.
What
So-
about, Sister, when you plan to visit the area around the Katuwapiti church?
Yes.
I think there were 70 houses that had funerals just around the church
Yeah.
only.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, it gave up the greatest number of lives in the blast there. How do you think you're going to be received by the survivors and their families, the families of the people who perished? I'm also talking about those young kids who lost their mums and dads, sisters and brothers, but in this one case, the late Dr. Sanjana Fernando's family, Dr. and Mrs. Fernando both died,
Yeah.
and they left behind 3 children.
Yeah.
One's 20, 15 and 12. How do you think the 2 boys who are there, if you were to go there, what are you going to say to them? How will they receive you?
Since I personally know that family, you know, so they are very, very, very friendly and they are okay with us.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they are pain and they are...
Precisely. They're 15 and 12. They've got a whole life in front of them and no parents.
Yes. So, and they are not ready to speak just now.
No.
No. So, but it has to happen. It has to happen.
So this therapy will help them?
Yes, definitely. Yes. But it has to have, you know, it will take little time. And
clearly you have local language people who speak Sinhalese and Tamil and so on. Because it's not all in English, is it?
No.
Okay.
Mostly it's Sinhalese.
It's mostly in Sinhalese.
Mostly. I would say 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it one of the things you will be addressing, this?
We will be addressing
stigma?
because
this perceived stigma?
They are the people are very open.
I see.
Yeah, because the sisters and priests, because it's a Catholic community, so they are used to us. So they are very open and they are able to speak about their problems. They come.
I see. Sorry about that. Maybe I should consult you for a ticklish cough. Doctor, tell us, the supervision, the training, how intense is it?
So it's an intensive training which is done for professionals. The people who are selected in Sri Lanka and I think all over the world, or at least in Asia, we have very strict rules for it. They have to be people who are working in the mental health sector, and they have to be qualified in a mental health faculty. So they can be graduates in psychology or as social workers, but they have to have a mental health background because this is specialist therapy. Plus they are going to be dealing with clients or with patients who have post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic issues. So I would suggest we do a thorough checkup where they are professionals who come. It's a 3.5-day training, so it's an intensive training. There is supervision that goes on for at least 5 hours, and there are 2 levels. So it's not, as Sister Janet very rightly said, not a book where you read it and you kind of know how to do.
It's not somebody who just turns up cold and says, I'm going to be a counselor.
No. So, and I think that's a good part of the therapy, because then we get professionals who are thoroughly qualified, who know what they're doing and can do this therapy for people with minor and major traumas, which is there prevalent all over the world today.
And this therapy, can it be done by groups, in groups?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Good question. Yes, so it can be, and we have done it in groups in India and across the world as well. So when there were, we had gone to Kashmir recently. Before that, we've gone to Gujarat where there was an earthquake, and we take children in the whole class. Adults can be taken, and you can do it as a form of group therapy. Obviously, over there you will not do eye movements, so you do bilateral tapping for the whole group.
Okay.
So it can be done in a group very successfully, I may add.
What do you envisage for the people, the blast victims in Sri Lanka? What kind of, is there going to be groups as well?
Group,
now here in this situation, even the people or the children who are not directly affected, still they are also traumatized.
Yes.
After seeing all the images on the TV and all that. So we hope that it will be helpful when we do as groups. So we have to work out some way of doing that. Still we have not had the... Because
I'm glad you mentioned that thing about the images, because recently I was contacted by a foreign broadcaster who had used some of the footage with our permission, and they thanked us for our coverage because we didn't show the more gruesome parts of the attack. And so I was very proud of our team for having taken that into consideration prior to the 13.5-hour non-stop coverage that we undertook on the day.
That can be equally traumatizing.
So thank you to News First for that. So obviously, even, you see, and this is a very important thing you're mentioning, that these images on television,
Yes, they are
in the
traumatized.
newspapers,
Yes.
can cause
Trauma.
an impact, a trauma.
It triggers the past, doesn't
It triggers the past.
So somebody who has been in a trauma in the past, this can get triggered.
I see. So,
Can I add that
Yes.
on Sunday we are doing the group protocols,
okay.
and entry is free, incidentally.
And where is this being
It
held,
is at
sister?
Samuthana, and the Sri Lankan organization is
Right.
doing, so we will be training people for group protocols.
Oh, good.
So they
Well,
can,
where-
it will
where's
have
the-
a
where's the
multiplier
location?
effect.
Navala Road,
In Navala.
419 Samuthana, that is how we call that place.
419 Navala Road.
419. But it's not for everybody, it is
Right.
only
It will
for
be
the
the-
trained professionals.
It
Oh,
will
I
be,
see.
yes,
Is it the
yes.
public don't turn up like that?
Yeah,
No,
it's not for the
but
public.
it is for the
So it's by
professionals.
invitation to the
Yeah.
professionals.
Yes, but it is free. So the
It's
Sri
free.
Lankan Association, in collaboration with us from India, we are going to be doing and teaching the group protocols.
But all this
So-
costs money. How do you raise money?
In this instance, for the training, we charge the participants.
Right.
Yeah.
A
But
little bit,
generally,
but-
the therapy and so on, how
Not
do you
the
fund your
voluntary work.
activities? Is it by private donation?
Yes.
A few private, but
Private
a lot of voluntary
donations.
work I
A
requested.
lot of
Oh,
voluntary
yes.
work. Well, there you have it. We've heard about EMDR. Thank you, Sister Jen, for being here. And thank you very much,
Thank you,
Doctor,
Faraz.
for being with us this
Thank you.
evening.
Pleasure.
And that's the way it was on Newsline Prime. If you wanted to find out more details, you can contact us by SMS 0772 300 305, and we'll be happy to share details. Thank you very much, and have a great evening and a great weekend ahead of you. Take care, and of course, God bless.
And thank you too.
Thank you. Thank you, Faraz.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukut Ali.